Hey folks, we'll get started momentarily, about a couple minutes. We want to make sure people get from the other session here. Thanks for being early. Thanks for being on time. We'll start at 5:05 and I'm pretty sure we'll have time for questions at the end and throughout. So thanks for joining. We'll get started momentarily. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll get started. My name is Will Stoner. I'm with the Office of Volunteer Engagement. I'm joined by my colleague, Winona Pinn, who is the Hubdialer guru. If you're in the Hubdialer session or clicked here by accident, that's where you are, Hubdialer Virtual Call Center. If you were hoping to be in a different session and you want to make sure you're in there, you could discreetly leave and go try to click into another one and get into that one if you'd like. But hopefully you're in the right place and you want to hear about our virtual call center. I'm going to share my screen and do a brief presentation, and then we'll have ample time, ample time for questions. Let me do that again. And I can see you, Winona. So thumbs up if you can see the screen. Great. So again, Will Stoner and Winona, W Squared. We are here to talk about Hubdialer today. And it's a virtual call center. And as I mentioned, we'll take some questions at the end. We'll have ample time and maybe even throughout. So what is Hubdialer and what are the volunteer opportunities within Hubdialer? Well, a little bit about it. Some of you may have participated in a phone bank before, where you're in a room with a bunch of telephones, a bunch of people, someone hands you a piece of paper with phone numbers, names, and columns in it. And you pick up the phone and you start dialing away, you're deciphering the phone numbers, you're maybe someone else's handwriting from the last time they made notes, and you're making that call. And maybe Margaret answers, maybe she doesn't. And if she doesn't, you write no answer, maybe it was busy, call back, all of that. And then when you get to the bottom of the sheet, after you made all those calls, you go back to the top of the sheet and you do it all over again. Or a volunteer came through and handed you another sheet. And it was effective. It was a little clunky, but that's what we had at the time. We didn't have this great technology we do now, where everything that I just mentioned is automated. All that note taking can be done very easily, a click of a button, or just focusing on making calls, making sure that the time that you're spending volunteering is focused on making quality connections. So it is virtual. You can do it from anywhere in the world where you can get an internet connection and have a phone. So you'll need a computer and a phone. No fancy other technology needed, and there's nothing that you download to your computer. It's an online format. It is done through a web-based. So you log into a website and then link your phone. The specifics of how the technology works, I might not talk too much about it today. There's a training that we'll mention at the end. If this is a volunteer opportunity that you're interested in, you can dip your toe in and find out a little bit more about how the system works. The beauty of volunteering at AARP, no matter what the opportunity is that you hear about today or ad infinitum, it is flexible. We want to maintain flexibility because we want you to engage at the level and the timing and in the issues that you care about and you're interested in. So flexible participation as far as what day, you can choose a day that you can call multiple days, you can call for an hour, you can call for 3 hours. It really is up to each individual. And you might only have 30 minutes one day, and then the next day you're not available, or only once during a campaign. Typical campaign lasts about 2 weeks. Again, the flexibility is there. No pressure on time that you commit, and also the issue area. We'll get into some of the issues that we call on and have been calling for a couple of years with great effect and great engagement and impact. But again, we want you to follow your passion. If there's an issue that you're not crazy about, you just pass. You don't have to engage in the campaign. What we try to do is create enough opportunities for you to choose from so that as we're developing this volunteer team, this national team of virtual call center volunteers, that we have enough for each of the campaigns that we're working on. But again, never any pressure on any individual or any group to make a certain amount of calls. We're just grateful to be able to make these member engagements. So that's really important, the targeted call audiences within AARP. These are our members. So we're calling members from AARP through data that we have procured from our data analytics group. So they share the lists with us, they're loaded in the system. You don't have any list management to deal with or anything. All you have to do is connect your phone to your computer and start making calls. But it is members, and I'll talk about some special audiences in a little bit. Scripts. We have got everything scripted out, just like if you have ever worked in one of those old school call centers. They handed you a script too, that if Margaret did answer the phone, they would have you read that script to see where Margaret might have felt about a specific issue or a candidate, etc. Same thing. We have a script, very brief, to the point. It's really about connecting quickly with our members, conveying some information, and asking if they'd like some additional information. So the beauty is the way the technology does work is the script pops right up on your computer screen, and Margaret's name, or whatever the member is that answers is the household that we're calling, their name pops right into the script. So all you have to do is just read, if you want, until you get comfortable with the script and feel like you can do it a little bit more ad hoc. But it's really
I'm just checking in on you to see if you need anything.
So short scripted conversations, no lengthy, conversations with folks. And then state and national opportunities. You'll see some statistics in a bit. All 50 out of our 53 state offices have engaged in this opportunity, and we have national opportunities that we're developing all the time, and is very impactful. So how does Hubdialer make an impact? Well, one of the campaigns that we will be launching right away for folks that are interested in this opportunity and go through the next steps is we're going to be calling rural, low-income, coastal North Carolina members and offering them information about emergency preparedness, like a weather event, like a hurricane. Being prepared, offering them checklists so that they can start thinking about preparing an emergency kit, and also free information and resources. So one of the things that we offer to our members free of charge, everything is always free, no matter what campaign we work on, no matter what issue it is. There's never a, hey, if you would like this, it's only $45. Never. It's always free information, free resources. In this instance, that we made calls to low-income, rural veterans in coastal North Carolina this year and offered them this type of information, but also a go bag, which is a waterproof backpack so that if they need to get out of their home and get to safety, they can just grab that pack and go and have some of the essentials. Free of charge, $80 value, in addition to some emergency starter kits, some pieces to get them started on building their 3, 5, and 7-day plan. A really impactful campaign. I got one couple called me, and they were so thankful for the information and the resources, because when we're talking about low income, these are folks that typically cannot afford that type of resource. Fraud, big part of what AARP does. All of our state offices engage in campaigns to help people avoid fraud. So we call individuals, give them a current fraud tip or some recent scam that's been happening that they might not know about, and then also free resources, some free stuff. Sometimes it's books, sometimes it's some swag or stuff we all get, freebies, fun stuff like that, but also really good information about what's happening so that they can avoid fraud. And we also have some tailored information for our veterans, because veterans are 60% more likely to be taken advantage of by a scam artist, unfortunately. So we launch campaigns to help veterans quite often. Advocacy. Again, when I say you have the option to pick and choose your campaigns, there are different advocacy campaigns that we work on around some of our issues, like home and community-based services, for example. In New Hampshire, we did this great campaign where we connected individuals to their senator to say that they wanted to see more resources going into home and community-based services, and it was effective. So doing these patch-through calls, really impactful and really fun, because you talk to one of our members, you get them excited about the issue, and then ask them if they'd like to be connected to their legislator. You push a button, they get connected to Senator so-and-so, they say a few words that are supportive of the issue, and then job done. So that's an example. We've called about some work and save issues, and the list goes on and on. In the advocacy realm too, we just did a great deal of voter engagement, making sure that people had timely information about absentee ballots for this last election, because the dates of when they have to be mailed and postmarked is very specific. We wanted to make sure that our members, who are a very significant voting bloc, had important information that they needed for that for this recent election. So I did mention some of the specialty groups. This is just a small list, but veterans, we call rural, low income, always looking at some of our membership and where we can build some more relevance with them to make sure that they're getting the information they need. Caregivers, we can call on benefits eligibility. One of our state offices called individuals who are financially eligible for supplemental nutrition assistance programs and encourage them to apply, because I think there was a recent rule change maybe, or income change, and they wanted to make them aware of it, because many people have applied and they've been denied, and when the rules change, we want to make sure they know about it. So those are great campaigns. And then one around the Medicare savings program we're talking about doing, not to be confused with Medicare Advantage plans, but Medicare savings programs, which are for low income individuals. So there might be some opportunities there. I mentioned voting, and also there's some local events. And sometimes there's some, we actually have some of our state offices that call volunteer to volunteer. They actually check in on their friends and folks that they might not have seen. So especially during the pandemic, our Georgia state office, they were calling their members, their volunteers that they hadn't seen in a virtual meeting or in person once we started to roll back into the community, and wanted to make sure that everyone was okay and feeling good. So some of that impact, 50 out of our 53 state offices have used it. 2 of them can't. It's Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, just a data issue. But so we're at almost full capacity for state usage. 42,000 members have been reached. Those are numbers that are really important to us, because it's something that we can measure and look at, and look at the impact that we've had with having those conversations with our members. But the number I love the most, especially being with the Office of Volunteer Engagement, is that 459 volunteers have been trained and engaged in using Hubdialer. And that's where, you know, Winona really gets a shout out here. Those 50 state offices that are utilizing it, she trained them. And the 459 volunteers engaged, she trained them. So she is the guru on Hubdialer and is just really a fabulous resource for this effort and for this campaign and for our volunteer opportunities. So you're sitting there going, okay, I get it, enough. What do I do? How do I do this? Well, the good news is we're going to make it really easy. And even if you're kind of like, I'm not 100% sure though, I like what I hear, but I'm not sure. No problem. You know, again, flexible, I'm chill. If you're interested, become a prospect. I'm going to show you how to do that. Just get on our list so that we can communicate with you about the future opportunities to be trained. And I'll show you that. We'll put this link in chat. We have 2 virtual live opportunities where Winona will be gathering and doing a deeper dive on the Hubdialer system. There's a video you can watch on how the system works. We talk through some of the nuances, like, you know, your information is never shared. The calling through your phone and computer, the phone number that shows up is an AARP number through the system. Never at any time is your information shared with anybody. The only thing that that member will know is your first name, because you've introduced yourself. That's it. We take your identity and your protection very seriously. And the system makes it so easy for us to do that. So at no time is your information available. So what you do is you check us out, become a prospect by going to this bit.ly link here, get on our list. We will then send you the training information so that you can choose which one you want to come to. And we recognize that people are super busy and that on demand might be a better option. We encourage the live version because that way you can ask questions and you get to commingle with some other volunteers, which I know some people really enjoy, and seeing some of your colleagues who are interested in the effort. But we will also push these out on demand to make sure that people can do this whenever they like. So the last page is our contact information. This is the W squared, W Stoner, W PIN. If you have any other questions, feel free to shoot us an email. But really a good way to, if you're the slightest bit interested, put your name on that prospects list. We'll make sure that you get communicated with well enough that you can make a full formal decision. And again, no obligation until you decide, yep, I'm a volunteer. So I'm going to stop sharing. I know that we have plenty of time for questions. I wouldn't say plenty of time, but I think we go to 5:30. So we have about 9 minutes, but I'm happy to entertain any questions that folks have, whether you want to pop it in chat, which you can easily do if you move your mouse to the bottom of the screen. There's a little chat bubble there. You can click that and it'll either open up a chat box into the middle of your screen or on the side. And then when you type it, just make sure that that drop down arrow says everyone so that everyone can see your question. If it's a personal question, like about, you don't want to ask it in a, I don't mean personal, but if you don't want to ask it in a public setting, you can either choose Winona or me and send it individually if you like. And then we don't have to give you credit for it. So let me pause too before we, as you're thinking of your question or before we, and if you'd like, you can even raise your virtual hand. If you go to reactions and raise your hand, you can also raise your hand if you like, and we can call on you. Winona, I'm sure I missed something. Help me out here.
It was so good. I don't know that you did. It was great. We love, I would add this, I guess I'm the one that hears a lot of the feedback from those 459 people who have trained, and overwhelmingly what I hear is that it's an easy system to use. I think that's important to know, is that not only is it flexible to use, but it's easy to use. So when you have that time to jump in, you don't have to worry about it being something that's difficult to learn. Someone in chat said, are people leery to speak to you? I personally don't answer calls. You may not know that because they just won't answer. So again, we're connecting you to the live answers. So you probably, if someone feels leery, they just won't answer and you'll never know about it. Sometimes, of course, people will hang up, but surprisingly, that percentage is pretty low. I'd say 3 to 5% of our total outgoing phone volume is hang up. So it's pretty low on that end. And again, another thing I hear from the volunteers is a lot of thanks from the people on the other end of the phone. It could be that they didn't see this message in some other way. Maybe they missed an email or a newsletter or the website link. And so you're sharing something with them they might not have known otherwise. So
Yeah.
we get a lot of thanks, and that's fun.
Yeah, Sue, thanks for the question, and thank you, Winona. That's great. One of the things that's exciting about this when we first started using it is we do tell our members, be leery of numbers you don't recognize. So one of the things that we go to efforts to do is to make sure it shows up as AARP in the caller ID. It doesn't always do that, but when it does, what's interesting is, and I'm sure the folks on this in this breakout can reflect on this. Having been a member, whether it's a year or many years, how many times has AARP called you? Probably not ever. So it's a surprise and delight. Our members are actually like, wait a minute, AARP's calling me. And then when it's to say, hey, I have some free information about emergency preparedness and free stuff. Would you like it? They say yes overwhelmingly, and they're probably still wondering, this sounds too good to be true. I still have to be cautious, but we're not asking for any information from them. The beauty is, so the other cool thing about this is once they say yes, all you have to do is hit a radio button that says, yes, they want the information. You don't see their address. You don't need to ask them their address. You don't need to ask them anything. We have all that information on the back end. So, you know, what they tell us to be careful of scammers is don't share information. They don't have to share anything other than the answer yes or no. So we are very cognizant, having worked in the fraud field quite a bit, to make sure that it is that experience where someone's not like, wait a minute, this sounds too good to be true. It kind of is in some instances because we're giving away free stuff. But for us and for me, it's really about having that impact on someone's life who normally wouldn't think about getting that go bag together or affording the go bag or other fraud resources. So I really love that question because it really is a surprise to our members when we call. Yes, the recording of this meeting is going to be available to watch. All of these breakouts will have videos attached to them. We will notify every single person that registered that the Brand Live site now has the recorded versions of these Zoom sessions. In addition to, I'll be sending an email with a link to the recording so that people can check them out. So that's what I like to say. You know, you're only going to see 3 sessions today because we're repeating the 8 sessions 3 times, but we are going to push out information on every single one of the 8 breakout sessions so that you can revisit it on your own, on demand, and check out the other opportunities available. I don't see Hubdialer in the volunteer choices when registering. At the Bitly site, if it's at the Bitly site, so let me just ask Valerie, let me just take a quick look at that. I'm going to my own link to see what pops up. The volunteer position details, thank you. So if that's what it is, Swift Action Team is what we're calling it. So instead of Hubdialer Virtual Call Center volunteer, we're calling it a Swift Action Team. Swift Action Team is just a fun way for me to think about when a campaign pops up, offering it out to volunteers that work with us. If they're interested, they're like mercenaries. Hey, I like this issue. I'm going to jump in there. I'm going to make those calls. Or, nah, that's really not my cup of tea. I'm going to pass. So Valerie, if that's what you're referring to when you go to that Bitly link, it's called Swift Action Team. And let me just check. I think that brings us up to date on chat. We still have about 3 minutes, I think. But we can end like maybe 1 minute early to make sure you have time to get to your other breakout, our final breakout, and then we'll come back to the main stage after that for some closing comments. But as I'm keep filling empty space, I'm from New York, so I live in New York. I'm from New York. Empty space to me is uncomfortable, so I just keep going. So you have to either interrupt me, you have to throw it in chat, raise your hand or whatever if you want to get something across. But I do want to say thank you for taking a few minutes out to actually exploring this opportunity. You'll love working with Winona. You'll kind of like working with me. But between the two of us, I think we even each other out. I think you'll really enjoy it. And the opportunity is great. There's no pressure. It's really just hey, check us out, see if it's something you want to do, become a prospect. If it's not, no obligations. But check us out. And I encourage you with those other volunteer opportunities you hear about today. And when you get the follow-up email, just dip your toe in. We don't have to get married, but let's dance. Let's find out what dance we like. Maybe it's the cha-cha, maybe it's the tango, maybe it's freestyle. We got another upstate New Yorker. Good. Shelly, thanks for joining us. And everyone else, it was a pleasure chatting with you today. Check us out and please enjoy the rest of your experience with us today at the open house. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.